And when we all understood that it was actually dangerous to go to places where people with coronavirus might be, especially if you had a chronic condition, telehealth took off, and some places went 100% telehealth. Now we're seeing it kind of, settle in. And I think we went from 3 to 5% or 3 to 8% to 30 to 50%, in some cases as much as 80%. But I think we're going to end up being about 50%-ish, which is dramatic growth for companies like Teladoc. And it's also a fundamental rethinking of our relationship and how we do healthcare.
I think you guys should have a naming contest for the new parent company name. We should ask for
it won't be Teledongo or Liva, whatever you said, Livadoc, whatever. That's what it won't be. But we have great brand equity in all the brands across the business. And ultimately, the good news is Jason will figure out what he wants to call it.
So what about this platform discussion that you just really raised? It's, people have been talking about it for a long time. There's got to be a platform. There's got to be a platform because nobody wants, something to treat their diabetes and something else to treat their big toe, and something else to treat their left arm. And yet that's how we mostly still are out there, right? There's a million different niche products for different medical conditions and they pop up every day. Are you guys using this as an opportunity to sort of roll up a whole body? Is that your plan?
Well, this is, in fact, today. This is not about a future plan. This is the platform, which is you start with a digital front door. Let's say you have a chronic condition or multiple chronic conditions, which are the folks that cost the most money in our healthcare system. So if you have type 2 diabetes, 70% of the people with type 2 diabetes also have hypertension. A high percentage of those people have a weight management issue. And if you're dealing with multiple chronic conditions, you may at times have a behavioral or mental health issue, which is you might get tired of it. You might get depressed about it. So all those fit together very nicely. Those same people occasionally get a sinus infection or occasionally have other issues. And to have one platform, they used to call us in the middle of the night and they'd say, I have a sinus infection. We'd say, well, why are you calling us? And they'd say, well, number one, you're the only ones who will answer the phone. Number two, you're the only ones who are responsive. And number three, you're the only ones we trust. So we started to say, well, this is a real need. How do we solve that need for our members? And we started to talk with all the different telehealth providers. And ultimately, as the pandemic came along, we got to see how they perform under pressure. We started to look at what would we do to satisfy the ultimate objective of Livongo, which is empowering more people around the world with chronic conditions to live better and healthier lives. And Teladoc has 70 million. There are 70 million people around the world who have access to Teladoc. So think about that. Probably half those people have a chronic condition. They will now have access to Livongo.
Yeah. So actually, Glenn, that's true. I mean, most of those people have 2 or more chronic conditions, older adults. And I think one of the questions, and it's from the audience actually, is how, when you think about older adults, and now I'm talking about, people 75 and older, they're not as accustomed to perhaps using telemedicine. Oftentimes they're not, able to do it on their own. They need a caregiver to help them with these things. How do you think about reaching out to the folks that are, much older, the Medicare folks?
Well, we have at Livongo, a big part of our base is exactly that group of people. When you're talking about type 2 diabetes, there aren't a lot of young kids who have type 2 diabetes. So out of the 32 million people in the United States who have diabetes, just under 2 million have type 1. That's the genetic type. The rest of those folks are much older, and our average base at Livongo is, I think, about 56 years old. So that means a huge percentage of those folks, our members, who are so critical to us, are in the age group you're talking about. And we've made the experience so easy that it takes no training. There's no Bluetooth. Bluetooth is a disaster. There's no syncing. They take the meter out. They start to use it. They take.
But are you actually doing any outreach to that older market specifically yet?
Well, we don't have to, because as we're working with our largest clients, many of them include retirees and the like, And so consequently, that includes that older market. But we haven't seen any, what I'd say is this: when you're talking about using technology, that's really the wrong thing. What you want to say is, what's the experience we're creating?
Yeah.
And we're able to create an experience that makes it easier for someone, whether they're younger or older, to use our technology. And by the way, there's nothing easier than teledoc, which is talking to a person. It's not about technology at all. And you can do that in a variety of ways. So we want to meet the customer, we want to meet the member or the health consumer wherever they are. And let me give you one example. I can walk in, I can talk to my Amazon Alexa. I can go to a Higgy station, which there's 10,000 around the country. I can do it over my phone. I can do it on my computer. So pretty much anywhere, my Apple Watch is connected. So everywhere you are, you're going to be able to access a teledoc or Livongo solution or other solutions. And we can't say, any longer a health consumer has to go to a certain location. We're going to meet them wherever they are. We're going to make it easy for them to get the care they need. And that's really the vision of the combined company.
So you've been through mergers before. It's not your first rodeo. They're always really hard on companies, or they can be very hard on companies. Even if they're great decisions, they can be very hard on companies. What's been the hardest part so far on this one?
Well, the good news is that in a lot of mergers that you do, particularly in more traditional industries, you talk about cutting jobs, or you talk about, this. Both of our organizations are hiring pretty aggressively. And in the time of the pandemic, we're getting incredible talent. So there's no plans to stop that. We're expanding our spaces. Now, we're expanding our spaces in part because we're going to have half the people in twice the space. And we're very much focused on allowing our folks, if they want to stay home and work from home, they can do that. They want to come in, they can do that. We want to do what's best and what's safest, and we want to follow the science.